just like an icebreaker for us. Everybody know I'm relational. The things that I do now is mainly falls under the title of, or under the category, or however you want to put it, of relational consciousness. And I've had quite a few people ask me, like, what the heck does that even mean? I was on a webinar thing the other day, and the guy was like, what's relational consciousness? I've never heard it, but it actually includes, so most of y'all already know because I talk about it all the time, but it includes everything from your spirituality, the relationship with God, relationship with each other, relationship with the bugs and the bees, and I ain't got to that part yet. But just relationship with everything, but just the idea of consciousness. So what I want us to do real quick is just to kind of sit in your conscious position or your meditative position really quick. And I want you to simply check with yourself. I want us to make sure, and I saw this, somebody did this and I thought it was just so fabulous. So I figured like we would do that here at the intersection. I want you to get aware of your body, all right? And I want you to just check and see if you got to pee. Y'all didn't catch it. What did you just do? What did you do?
Self-aware.
Huh?
Made ourselves self-aware.
You just made yourself aware? And let's do it again. Just check and see if you got to pee. It's a joke, people. I'm just playing. This comedian was, I can't think of the guy's name, but he did this thing, and he was doing this thing about consciousness. And it was hilarious to me because being in this whole consciousness thing or whatever, and he was like, I just want everybody, just for a second, I want you to just check and see if you got to pee. And he's like, and the whole room just got silent, kind of like this at first, and then everybody started laughing. Because like, what did you do? What do you do when you check and see if you actually got to pee? We really don't know. But anyway, at the end of the day, I want to read this. Listen, I was on the plane. So for some reason, when I'm on the plane, there's a different level of awareness or something. I don't know if it's keeping myself from falling out or what, or being worried about falling out of it. But I got this, what I would consider to be a prophetic download, somewhat of a prophetic download, like a prophetic word regarding this whole thing with relationships and this is that and the other. And we do a lot of talk about the love stuff, right? Our whole life is obsessed with this love thing. Even when we're saying we don't want, I'm good by myself, all of the little things that we say, I'm done with relationships, or now I'm going to move to this type of relationship, this is that and the other. And this kind of came to me as I was reflecting on what Will was having us to, our theme for this month. But I'm going to read this to you because this is how I got it, and I got to read it because it was more of me just receiving it prophetically than me just coming up with writing it. But it says, love is simply the Creator teaching you and reminding you that we are one. Serving one another isn't about you being less than the ones you are serving, losing yourself, or even giving all of your energy away. It's actually about finding, being, and recognizing yourself. It's about mobilizing the energy you are accountable for in a meaningful, life-giving way that continues the life, integrity, and essential existence of the whole of us. Our lives are connected, even to those we call ourselves cutting off. Right? That got me, because y'all know I don't never talk about cutting nobody off, but I was in that zone. All right, it says, our lives are connected even to those we call ourselves cutting off, discarding and ignoring. Yes, even those you feel have no place in your life, and those you feel don't deserve your love. That word deserve gets us in trouble all the time. Here's the thing. When we really understand this love, it's no longer boxed into a category that's marked mine. It is mobilized, recognized, and actualized as ours. To serve certainly calls for humility. To be served by another requires humility as well. It's not a position for prideful expectation or a sense of entitlement, but instead a position of alignment as the service is rendered. To be served is to position yourself for honorably receiving the continued breath of God flowing from the lover to you. In this alignment, you two stand in love as a worthy recipient, yet still a generous giver, in that you provide a cup for the poor to pour his wine. As she satisfies this thirst, you give relief to her overflowing vessel of honor. While this may sound like a great exchange, we talk a lot about love being an exchange, but while this may sound like a great exchange, it's so much more than that. It's not a you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. This is a sharing of skin. You see, let me go back up. Yeah, this is not a scratch my back and you scratch and I scratch yours. This is a sharing of skin. Love is not a matter of first or last. It's beyond such chronological limitations. Love, you see, is a constant, a continuum, a synchronized order of choreography. It's the purest essence of obedience, submission and dominion, power and vulnerability. Yes, love is just that dope. Can't you see, we don't have to, this thing moves really interesting. Can't you see, we don't have to complicate love. Love is simply the Creator teaching you and reminding you that we are one. I talk a lot about the sense of oneness that we tend to have. All right, and we use the word relationship a lot of time. But really what is beginning to be revealed to me is that our relationships are really just a means to something else. Anybody got an idea what it might be? No? Huh?
Acceptance?
No.
No.
But yes, but no. Yeah. Ultimately, again, at the very core of all of this, we're one. So the relationship that we have with one another is really just a reflection of this oneness. So we use the word relationship, however, that still in some ways keeps us separate. You follow me? Because then there's still, in this sense, a me and a you. All right, so then we're still, in some sense, losing some of the sight that we're one. All right? This is where all of our pain comes from. This is where all of our hurt comes from. This is where all of our disagreements come from, our issues and all of the things that we're seeing in our society that's happening now, is we are forgetting that we are one. So we're not teaching, even here at the intersection, it's really a lot of, somebody said it a few weeks ago, a lot of this is really just, I think we'll put something up. It's like we're clearing away all of these things that have been piled onto our life that has caused us to forget to love. All right, we don't have to learn to love, we just have to remember to love. Because at the very core of our being, that's who we are. But that has been forgotten because people have done us all kind of ways. All kind of things have taken place. So this particular session, we're going to focus on perfecting our circle of love. This is actually taken from Conversation 18 in my book, and it's actually titled that, Perfecting Your Circle of Love. This week has been an absolute interesting week with people, and some of the people that I coach and whatever, with just all these relationship issues popping up all over the place. And I'm saying popping up, but it ain't really popping up. They've always been there. And I'm looking and saying, what the heck is going on with all of these relationships? And not just talking about your significant other and your boo, but just period, from family to the people in our on our workplace, in our society, and all that stuff or whatever. We got a lot going on. So the first thing, one of the things when I started talking about this is I was saying, you can have the perfect relationship. Why? All right, not because we're perfect, and understand what we mean when we're talking about perfect. So I want to make sure that I give us the understanding of what I'm meaning when I'm talking about perfect relationship. All right, we talked a few weeks ago, and I think one of the questions on the board was is God perfect or something like that? And we talked about the whole thing of perfection. What our mind tends to go to when we talk about perfection is what? Without error and no mistakes. All right, but the deeper reality of the word perfect, and that's one meaning of it. All right, but you know how some words have multiple meanings. When Jesus, the Christ, makes the statement, it says, "Be ye perfect as I am," right? Perfect. He wasn't saying don't make mistakes. He was saying, well, try not to, but what he's saying is, stand in that sense of maturity. All right? It's more aligned with the precision of maturity than it is never making a mistake. All right? Because you are perfect, when you mess up, you can go back and say, I'm so sorry. I messed up. All right? That's some sense of perfection. The law of perfection. Anybody ever heard the law of perfection? Never heard of it? Yes? No? All right, it's like 100 and something laws that I guess govern the universe or whatever. And I don't get too deep into a lot of those, but there's some that I kind of have a certain sense of. But in the law of perfection, it basically says this. Well, let me say this first. Perfect is not to be confused necessarily with goodness. All right, say that back to me. Perfect is not to be confused with goodness. All right, you can be perfectly evil. Y'all following me? All right. See, now this begins to take the word perfection to a whole nother realm and level. Right? So I can be perfectly good or perfectly evil. Yeah, at any given moment. From minute to minute and moment to moment, depending on what we do. So it's not so much about that it necessarily means that everything is going to be good. So when somebody asks you, well, how was your day? It's probably perfect. Probably perfect. You know, some of the things with some of our spiritual teachers when they say everything is as it should be. And, you know, I used to get mad and be like, shut up. It's not as it should be. What the hell are you talking about? Everything is as it should be. It's as it should be, not in the sense necessarily that God is orchestrating it that way, but in the sense that what's taking place is causing these things to come about. All right, let me explain that. Perfection has to do with precision, and that in the sense, the precision of relations. The law of perfection says if you're filled with hatred and destruction, you'll perfectly create a world of hatred and destruction. If you're filled with life, righteousness, and love, that's the world you'll perfectly create. So when we start talking about the whole idea of our relationships and this, that, and the other, what you put into it, even energetically, is what you're creating. Why are our relationships failing? Is it really? And this may press some of us a little bit. All right, so y'all know I always say stuff that's extreme. All right, so fall in the right place. Is it really that they were the wrong one? Somebody say, Is it really that they were the wrong one? Or maybe were they in the wrong place? Maybe were they in the wrong spirit? Maybe were they operating in, were you operating in the wrong realm? Do you understand what I'm saying? God didn't put us here with 7 billion people and all of us are incompatible. All of us are incompatible. You had 15 exes? 15 exes, and they all was just lessons to lessen yourself, to lessen each other. All right, because that's what seems to be happening with a lot of this stuff. So it's like, is it really that this was the wrong one, or were we operating in the wrong sense of reality? All right, so let's look at some stuff. I'm gonna read this real quick. I don't got D here to read. D reads my book like, don't nobody read it like D. She edited it, so I guess that's why but nobody reads it like her. Where do I want to go? If you love, make it known. Our feelings of love, hear this is good. I mean, not because I wrote it, but it's good. Because I wrote it. Our feelings of love for people do not serve them. All right. Our feelings of love for people do not serve them. As a matter of fact, your feelings of love are for you. And typically they serve you and only you. It's the active love expressed that breathes life into those we are in relationship that really is a love for them. Let's not just talk about love, let's practice real love. This is the only way we'll know that we're truly living in the truth. Even when we don't feel worthy of love, or the other has done something that seems undeserving of it, it's only love that can revive. It's really time for a paradigm shift. It's time to stop being love feelers, and it's time to move into being love dealers. All right? At the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves with these relationships, what are we really going for? What are we really doing? Are we really just going? But I think, was it you and I was talking? Or somebody, may have been you and me. Our relationships, in some sense, again, we talked about it being a vehicle or it being a sense of getting us to that sense of oneness, right? All right? But in that sense, our relationships should be roads to being our higher self and being our better self. Now, if you go into this relationship only with your list of what you want, are you really coming to a place of appeasing your higher self? Or are you just coming to a place of getting your ego fed? Are you following me? And sometimes sometimes it can be a very thin line. I just told one of my Facebook friends the day before yesterday. I just told her she had this. She does these posts all the time, and everybody knows she want a man. So, but she said all this stuff that she ain't gonna do. And I said, well, your wants or what you won't do is what's keeping you from the I do. So we ain't standing at the altar because your list of I won't do's is so much longer than I will do. Love is more of a willingness than a willfulness. All right? Now, again, that don't mean you got to accept everything. Y'all know what I'm saying when I'm saying that. But it's like some of our, there are three things we're going to talk about today that throw our relationships off and gets us out of this positive perfecting of our relationships and leads us into the negatively perfecting of our relationships. Yeah, your breakup was perfect. It was perfect because y'all hated each other. So it's like you perfectly put the things in the. Now, when I say you, nobody, please don't take this personal as in you was the one wrong in your relationship. Right? So when I speak, I kind of speak to everybody, and I always say this thing. I said the message is to everybody. So if you're in a relationship and you're being abused, this message is to the abuser too. You feel what I'm saying? But sometimes it falls on the ear of the person that's been hurt and it starts smacking their trauma. And then it's just kind of like, you saying I was the one that was... No, but the message is to everybody. So that means that, you just kind of presented it in that way. But it's like, so the breakup was perfect because, and again, not perfect as in it was necessarily good. All right? Now, there's some situations we'll say, I'm glad to be out of it. I'm good to be out of it. But I really want us to, and I had to do this with a lot of things in my life, really sit down and say, why am I glad to be out of this? What really was taking place in there? And am I really glad that I no longer have the bond with that person? Or what really was going on, was it the dynamics that we had was off? And we didn't know how to heal it. We didn't know how to fix the dynamic that was there. Now, there are some people that I do feel like you probably shouldn't be with them, right? Those two, that relationship probably ain't supposed to be what you're trying to make it. And we have to ask ourselves the question when it comes to that. Whatever. Our breakups, just like our getting together, our breakups should be done in the same spirit of love. I'm breaking up with you out of love. That don't even sound right, don't do it. I'm breaking up with you because that's the loving thing to do. Not because I can't stand your dirty, stinking, ugly self anyway. You wasn't all that cute no way. I only got with you because you liked me. All right, so in that sense, we got to look at some of these things that's going to tear us up and it's going to mess us up. It is important for us to understand that light dispels darkness. Somebody say light dispels darkness. Light dispels not the other way around. In the same way, love or perfect love or mature love casts out fear. Y'all heard that before somewhere? All right. Fear shouldn't cast out love. Are we in our relationships? Are you in fear or are you in love? I struggle sometimes with the fear part. I've gone through enough relational trauma. I told Sean last night, I said, I realized that some of the relational trauma that I went through being an empath and somewhat of an empath or an intuitive, some of the relational trauma that I went through wasn't even in my personal relationships with people. It was watching some of these other folks. It's kind of like, is this what we do? Is this what you call Relationship. When I first moved to Vegas, Vegas was a eye opener for me. Listen, people are weird everywhere, but when I but when I got here, there were things that people would say, "Oh, that's my friend." But how I saw them acting and responding to one another, I'm like, if that's your friend, I don't want to be friends with you people here. All right, I kind of stayed to myself because I was afraid to say, I didn't come from that. I didn't really come from that. This is not to say that I was in perfect friendships or perfect relationships, but we had, at least I did, had a sense of, if I'm with you, I'm with you. If I say we're friends, and people used to say it all the time, if LeAnzar said he was your friend, you better believe that he's your friend. He ain't going nowhere. You will leave before he does. 9 times out of 10, I can be mad at you, won't talk to you for 6 weeks, but I bet you I got you. I got you. You know, at the end of the day. But when I got here, I didn't see the same loyalty. And that's not to say that there's nobody that doesn't have it. I've met a couple of people. Maybe them. I don't know. But they from the West, the Midwest. Like, that don't count. No, it's fine. No shade to the Vegas people. Or to the West Coast people. Y'all are a little different, though. Y'all are a little different. But anyway, it was a whole different ball game of life. Some of the things in relationships, I was opened up to the whole world of, what do you call it? Multiple, when you got multiple
Polyamorous.
No, multiple partners and stuff.
Polyamorous.
Yeah, them poly things. Opened up to a whole new world. And it was just normal. Like, I mean, and not that it's, if that's what you choose, then okay. But here's the thing. It was normal, but painful. So it wasn't making sense. I was like, okay, well, if you're in an open relationship or a polyamorous relationship or polygamous relationship or any of the other polys, why are you hurt? So it wasn't making sense. Everybody had this idea that we could just be with whoever we want to be with. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, but I'm not understanding the pain. Did y'all get what I'm saying? So it was like, it was a whole new ball game, a whole new world for me, and I was just lost. All right, but if we're in our relationships and we're dealing from this place of fear, and we're dealing from a fearful spot, all right, because I was saying like that has given me some levels of trauma with people in this time. I'm kind of dealing with people like, I don't know. Because even in my conversations with people, it was like, one of my friends said, "You different." And he's looking at me nasty looking. He's like, "You different." And I was having a conversation with him about love. And I was like, "What do you mean I'm different?" He's like, "You're just different. Don't nobody act like that." He's like, "And that actually will get you hurt." And I said, "You're right. It will when you're dealing with people who don't understand that realm of love." That's all that's happening. Our exes, our friendships that failed, our family ships that failed. We weren't in that, we were in the space of perfectly creating hell instead of being in the space of perfectly creating life. You follow me? All right. This is always happening in our relationships, probably minute by minute, moment by moment. Are you in the space for your relationship where you're creating life? Or are you in the space for your relationships where you're creating hell? Are you a team? Or are you opponents? And a lot of times in the relationships that we tend to do, and I said this in the beginning, that ultimately the goal and the aim is to get to this place of oneness. But a lot of times what we're doing in this whole relationship thing is, it's me versus you. This exchange. Okay, well then, like I said, if you scratch my back, okay, then I'm gonna go ahead and scratch yours. I wanna call you, but I'm not gonna pick up the phone because I don't want you to think that I like you more than you like me. I've struggled with that one. I don't want you to think I'm into you more than you're into me. I've reduced it a lot now because when you become aware of it, it's like, okay, I'm not gonna live by that particular realm of fear. All right, because that's what am I sowing into my relationship at that point in time? Fear and division and all of those things. And I can't expect anything out of my relationship other than fear and division. When that's what I'm putting into it, when I won't deal with me, right? When I won't deal with how I see relationships and if it's off, when I won't deal with that, when I won't deal with my own pain, come on somebody, when I won't deal with the trauma that I've been, how many of y'all know you've been through some stuff? Right? You're aware that you've been through some stuff. Been through some stuff you probably shouldn't have been through, right? Like somebody else put some things on you, life has happened, right? When I take that, you can still be in a relationship when you have that. But when we lose sight of I realize right now, what you're getting from me is not my love. What you're getting from me right now is my pain. So if I can voice that, if we have the type of relationship, one of the things that Sean and I have done from the beginning, and the plan is to stay in this direction. All right, unless he started acting up, then he got to go on his way. All right, but the plan is to stay. The plan is to stay, because you can't be messing up my holiness. All right, so the plan is to stay in this direction. But we went into this saying, first of all, when we first met, it wasn't to see if we gonna be together, kind of thing. It was, you be you, let me be me. Let this be an expression of who we are, not an impression. I am not for trying to win nobody's heart. Never been. I can't do it. I'm not that romantic. I'm not y'all. I'm not that romantic. I'm not that affectionate. Unless we getting down with the get down. So it's like I can't. All I know to do is to show up as me. And there's some things that people say, oh, that would look very romantic. But trust me, I wasn't trying to be romantic when I did it. I was actually just being authentic. One of my coworkers said the other day, I did something. She said, oh, you're so sweet. I was like, no, I'm not actually. I'm not very sweet. I'm just authentic to what I sense and what I feel is life-giving. So then I give it. It comes off as sweet. And I know that's the word you use, but don't call me sweet. I'm a man, dog. All right, so as I've stated before, we're basically operating from those two places, either from the fear or from the love space. But maybe even better understood this way. We're operating from our spirit or either our ego or even this, being in our pain or in our power. Authentic power. All right, authentic power is being in your authentic self. And Gary Zukov, look him up if you ever get to him. He talks a lot about authentic power. All right, standing in that space where I don't need you to make me happy. But listen, I'm not saying that with an attitude either. Do you feel what I'm saying? Y'all feel what I'm saying? All right, I'm saying that in the sense of saying, hey, I know who I really am. And it does grieve me, people. Listen, I just put on Facebook a couple of days ago, I asked the question, will you accept me at the table? And a lot of my questions, a lot of times I usually not because I'm really asking anybody for permission. It's one of the ways that I raise consciousness is by presenting the question. There's a lot of things that I've taught via question, and then everybody's trying to, is in the inbox wondering, people saw me at some point. I don't know why they thought this. They thought for some reason that I was perfect. And I am. And I'm fine. But for whatever reason, when I started expressing that I have struggles, or that I have issues, or that I have, it was a shocker to some people, but it was also a healing to some people in a weird kind of way. So some of my transparency comes from that. So when I ask these questions a lot of times on Facebook or this and that, I'm not really asking because I'm in my sob, and I'll say when I am. Usually I'll say when I am. When I'm in a whatever, I'll just kind of say, because see, I've ruined my reputation. All right, I don't really have a reputation there's nowhere, where am I trying to go with it? For me. Now, when Oprah called me or something, then I'm like, I might have to put something else on. But at the end of the day, it's like I have nowhere all I know is I want to show up in the world authentic. That's the only goal that I really have, is to be me. And whatever manifests from being me, I am standing in the perfection that God has created me to be in. Do you feel what I'm saying? All right. Now, the flip side to that, when things are going wrong and I'm operating crazy, I'm perfectly creating evil, I'm not in alignment with who I really am. It's hard to be a lover when you're consumed with fear and with superstition and the superstition that it creates. You may be successful at having feelings for people, but loving them is definitely going to fall short. It's easy to have feelings. Sometimes you didn't even do nothing to have feelings for people, right? You can unconsciously sometimes have feelings for people. But it's when we start to do this thing from a conscious perspective that I think really matters. I want to get into these three things real quick. All right, here's some of the things that are killing our relationships, and this is why we're unable to perfect our. And I want y'all to talk back to me with this. Some of the things that are killing our relationships. One is roles. The ideal relationship is what? You don't have to answer it, but roles. What'd you say?
I said 50-50.
50-50. What's some other stuff you done heard? Because is that true?
No.
Is the reality. Exactly. All right? And roles. Here's role. And I've said this, and I guess I can say this here. When you put a man and a woman together, it is something powerful. Powerful. When you put a woman and a woman together, it is something powerful. When you put a man and a man together, it is something powerful. But when we start having these relationships based on hierarchical roles, this is your job and this is mine. Now, I'm not talking about when that's your strong point, this is my weak point. But when we place ourselves, I've had a lot of, some of the clients that I've been dealing with, and some of them are same-sex couples. I was like, clearly what the problem is in this relationship is both of y'all are women. And that dynamic is not being recognized. It's recognized physically, but it's not being recognized. That's a different type of relationship that may have a different level of governing, so to speak, in terms of dynamic than a man and a woman, right? The ideal man and a woman relationship, what does it look like? The man, what do we say? What do we typically say? The man is the what?
Provider.
He's the provider. He's the what? He's the head. I love when church people say it. Oh, the man is the provider. But I said, you didn't read Genesis, did you? Because in Genesis, Eve was created as an Ezer Kenegdo. That's the word it says. I'll make for him a suitable helper. And it means Ezer Kenegdo, which actually meant provider, protector. She was that. Not that he wasn't. All right, but it was really a relationship of equals. But we created this sense of hierarchy when it comes to it. If you're doing roles in your relationship where it's a matter of hierarchy, somebody at some point potentially may feel subjected. Do you feel me? All right, it's different than saying I submitted than being subjected to your authority. Versus yielding to it and doing. I said before, obedience is this. And I saw this at a conference when I got the revelation of it. I saw the dancers on the stage dancing. And I could hear God saying, that's obedience. See, we thought obedience was you do what I tell you to do. Obedience just means we have a choreographed dance and we're dancing together. We're flowing together. We are obedient in relationship to one another. If you're paying attention to anything I'm talking about right now, you're obedient to me and I'm obedient to you. It's not an idea of dictatorship, and that's kind of how we tend to go with it. But our roles, what roles do you believe, on the axis of this question, this is a little self-reflection thing. What role in your relationship, and y'all can actually say this, what is your role in a relationship? Well, your partner. No, like what is your role in the relationship?
Nurturer.
You're the nurturer. All right. Now, with that role, do you feel your partner shouldn't be one?
No.
Good space, right?
Right.
Because what happens is when we assume a role, sometimes we feel like that's my role, right? If I'm the provider, this is where y'all step on men's toes all the time, is because we just feel like we're supposed to take care of things here and there, some men. So that's my role. This is why you got guys that can't handle a woman that makes more money than them.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right? Is that really spiritually aligned truth? The church don't help because they say you can't get if a man can't take care of you, don't get him. Not that he shouldn't be able to, but what I'm saying is what we're feeding when we do that is we're feeding into these hierarchical roles that is just really ruining the relationships that we have. All right? When it has to always be me to do this or to do that. These things really begin to kill us. What roles do you believe, I wrote it here so some of this doesn't necessarily apply. What roles do you believe, blah, 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 blah. What roles do you believe you're supposed to play as a parent, as a child, as a friend? Who taught you that that's the role you're supposed to play? Just kind of self-reflecting it. Who taught you that? God said to Adam, who told you was naked? Naked is beautiful. Naked is good. Really what he was saying was, who told you something was wrong with being naked? But That's another story for another day. Can we do a month on nudity? Oh, shoot. I tried. It didn't happen. Are any roles that you're playing, any roles that you play right now, are there any roles you are playing that don't feel right to you? In some of the relationships that you're in, some of these roles, you've complied, but it don't feel right. See, we shouldn't be losing ourselves in these relationships. I wrote in this chapter, I was reading it the other day and I was like, man, that's interesting. We shouldn't be losing ourselves. A lot of times we think about the whole idea of love as selfless. But I think a better term would be to be self-full, so that I show up fully. And that's really all self-love is to show up full, to show up fully. That doesn't mean you don't got issues going on, you may not have something to do, but it's saying that I'm going to show up full for your benefit, for my benefit. It's ultimately, at the end of the day, for all of our benefit. And sometimes we don't particularly see things that way. But our roles is one of the biggest things, and I want you to really ponder this, and maybe even when we get to our group talk in a minute. What roles have you been hanging on to? I mean, and we hang on to some of these things like we hold on to our personalities, thinking our personality is who we really are. Your personality is how you are. It's not necessarily who you are. It doesn't mean throw it in the garbage. All right? But your personality is how you are. It's what you've had to put on. It's the word, I say it all the time. Personality means, it comes from the Latin word persona, which means mask. All right? So it's what you've had to put on in order to function and to make it in society. All right, here's one of the other things. Roles throw us off, and expectations. This is the part of our relationships that really get most of us in trouble. Is expectations. What is it that you're expecting from this person? One, what is it that you're expecting from them that you ain't even expecting from yourself? Because you're too busy in consumer mode and shopping, right? We use the shopping idea of relationships instead of actually being in a place of saying the same thing that I thought that this was amazing, even about God. There was a scripture I read one time and it said that the Lord sings over us. And it did something to me when I heard that. It's like, because I was a worship leader and we did a lot of singing. But to read the scripture, I think it was in like Zephaniah somewhere, and it said, the Lord sings over you with joy. It's like, so you mean to tell me he's not asking us to do anything that he wouldn't do? Jesus was the same way. Wasn't asking us to do anything that he wouldn't do. He says, love the way I loved you. So when we're going into certain relationships with people, are we going into it to see what you're going to give me, to see what you can give me? Or am I going into this to see what I can give you? Where do I fit in your life? If I don't fit, okay. All right? But I want to know, where do I fit? Because see, my aim is to, in other words, where can I give you life? Where can I continue? Love for me is this. It's continuing the breath of God that was breathed into us at creation. So where can I give you life? Where can I breathe into you and cause you to thrive? Y'all know I use the flower analogy all the time and say, if we really love flowers, we would leave them in the ground or in dirt. Buy me a plant. Don't just bring me well, not me, I don't like flowers. But get a plant and bring it to me because it's still living. Versus the cut flowers and it looks real cute. See, that's our romantic stuff. A dozen roses, we done tore up the petals of rose and led away to the bed and all that other stuff. Whatever. It's cute. Pick the roses up and eat it or something. You can eat rose petals, I think. So they say. All right, so our expectations. You expect, write this question down in your head. I expect my partner to X, Y, Z. I expect my friends to X, Y, Z. Whatever X, Y, Z is. And then you have to ask yourself this question. Because relationship, we're talking about perfecting this, talking about being mature in this. Is that expectation, one, reasonable? Two, are they capable? Right? Because sometimes you're expecting things from people. You can't expect a fish to climb a tree. All right? And either you're going to love them as a fish, or you're going to say, I'm going to be a... Who don't eat fish? Vegans. Do vegans eat fish? No. Or I'm going to be a vegan. All right, we can pray for the vegans. No, I love vegans. But it sounds like a religion. No. All right, so yeah, ask ourselves that question with the whole expectations that we have for our relationship, because I think they're really killing us. And the last thing is, are these expectations absolutely true? Meaning, do they really truly align with truth, love, and light? Are they for your spirit? Somebody say spirit. Are they for your spirit or are they for your ego? Right? Are they for your spirit or are they for your ego? And ain't nothing wrong with a little stroking. All right? But at the end of the day, your harness has to be the spirit. Has to be the spirit of who you are, especially if that's the type of relationship you have. I told somebody before, I desire a spiritual partnership. That's just what I want. That's why I don't get caught up in the sexuality conversations. My pattern of attraction doesn't work that way. It simply works that most of my life I was with women. I got 3 kids and enjoyed making them. Yes, God. All right. But I did not have a spiritual. We got married and they said under God it's in you. However the thing go when we do the weddings and stuff. You know what we say? The two become one. But we didn't. Well, we didn't. Our minds were nowhere near becoming one. She was fine as far as I was concerned, and it looked good for this nice young minister to have this pretty dime piece wife. And that's how I saw her. Ain't that bad? She was my dime piece wife. My mother said, you had a good little wife. And then eventually, because that dime piece wife, for me, at some point, I knew in my inner, that's not what I wanted. Not saying I didn't want a wife, saying that's not what I wanted. I didn't want a good little wife. I wanted a partner. I wanted a friend. I wanted a soul friend. I didn't want a good little wife. I don't want no yes woman, even though it was nice that, what do you want to do? Whatever you want to do. Y'all see that episode of... What's that movie? What's the movie? Y'all know the movie I'm talking about with Eddie Murphy. Coming to America. Whatever you like. What will I get the kids for Christmas? Whatever you want to get them. It's like, yeah, that sounds cute, but it ain't all that cute when you're trying to figure out how to pay the bills. How you gonna pay the bills? Whatever you want. Last thing, okay, so roles, expectations, and really play that in your head. All right. Then the last thing is patterns. What patterns have we had in our relationships? I want you to think about a few of your relationships. They don't have to be romantic. Think about a few of your relationships. Have you noticed any patterns? Good or bad? Good or bad? Have you noticed any patterns in your relationships? This speaks to us in some ways. Now, you have to ask yourself, are those patterns speaking to not just my truth in the negative use of it, or because sometimes I said some people will slap you all in the name of their truth. All right, but the truth of love, does your patterns, does it reflect that? Or is it reflecting your trauma? Is it reflecting things you learned that you shouldn't? Do you yell at your partners? Any of y'all yell at your friends and yell at your partners and this and that and the other? All right, where is that coming from? Is that a pattern that really ultimately is not giving life to your relationship? It's actually sucking life away from it. Right? Unless your partner like being yelled at and spanked and all that other extra time, then knock yourself out. All right? But can you detect any patterns that have shut down or that have shut up your relationships? All right? Over and over again. What are they? And do you believe, and where do you believe that they came from? And then this last thing is, have you ever thought, I've never felt this one, but in our whole relationship training stuff, we're supposed to talk about this. And I see a lot of romantic people talking about, I married my mama, or I married my father. You marry somebody just like them. It's like, so have you ever come into, this is just a matter, that's not a good thing or a bad thing. That's just necessary. Looking at your patterns, looking at what's actually happening in the patterns of the relationship that you're actually having. All right. What negative qualities seem to persist in these things? What I am really finding out, and this is what it really grieves my heart, what I'm really finding out with a lot of my friends, and even with a lot of people that I'm talking to about relationships, we don't want to do the work. We don't want a relationship. We say we want one. And we may even be eager for one because the bed gets cold at night. But we ain't ready. Because we won't even deal with ourselves. So how the hell you think you're going to deal with somebody else? Do you feel what I'm saying? Because I like my, Ayan would say, crazy mint.
I like my craziness, and I'm not changing for nobody. How true is that to love? The core of love doesn't change. Like, you're going to be who you are. But sometimes your attitude needs adjusting. Do you feel what I'm saying? Sometimes your personality might need an adjustment shift. And that may be from person to person. Some of us who are parents know there's a certain way you can talk to one kid that you can't talk to some of the other kids that way. The dynamic doesn't work that way. When you have two people that come into a relationship, and again, this is where we talk about the whole thing of being perfect. Me and Sean was talking about it one time. It was like, it's like water. It's just like water. When you take hydrogen and H2O, the two is for the hydrogen or the oxygen. So help me out, Lord, help me, Jesus. The two is for the oxygen. All right. So when you take hydrogen and two oxygens, and you put the two oxygens, what? When you take two hydrogens. Well, when you take two oxygens and one hydrogen, you don't get water. Right? Okay. All right. But when you take two hydrogens and an oxygen, you get what? Water. It perfectly creates. Now, I don't know what we're drinking now, because when you take two hydrogens and an oxygen and some fluoride, we call it water, but it's not really water. I don't know what it is. It looks like water, but it's not water. But what I'm saying is, when I put LeAnzar and Will together, we get this. Do you feel what I'm saying? When I put me and Sean together, we get this. And we perfectly created what's going into that relationship. I've said a lot of times to people, we want to do these, you get a lot of narcissistic people or narcissistic tendency people who want somebody to be committed, but they don't want to live a committed life. So you're polyamorous, but you want to be in a relationship with somebody who has a strong value for monogamy. That don't go together. Because both of you are going to end up hurting each other. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You're not allowing one another to thrive. You're actually putting each other in a box and trying to squeeze happiness out of the other person. When we're putting ourselves in a position of trying to squeeze happiness out of people, you are not in love. You're not perfecting your relationship in a godly way or in a healthy way. You're perfecting it in the sense of it's going to at some point crumble, or somebody's going to feel less than. All right? And that's not just our romantic relationship. The whole thing is going on right now with the actor. And I'm with Smollett, yeah. And I'm kind of tired of seeing the jokes. Because he ain't no different than the rest of us. And if it's true of how he got to that place, do you not know what that's like? To be somewhere, and I haven't followed any stories, but just I'm pasting it as a scenario. I feel unappreciated. Is that, well, you're throwing a tantrum because you're unappreciated. No, that's actually in line with our humanity. You should feel appreciated. You should be appreciated. We do in mental health a lot of times, and I talk about this a lot, we'll write, this kid is suffering, or one of their symptoms is attention-seeking behaviors. And I asked the question one time in one of our meetings, well, shouldn't they get attention? You don't have to do attention-seeking behaviors when you're getting attention. Are y'all following what I'm saying? So we can look and say, the kid is being immature. Is he? Or is he being human? Deserving of love, worthy of love, worthy of attention, worthy of whatever it is that these people need to thrive. Some of the problem comes in is because we operate with deserving. All right? None of us in our ill moments deserve greatness in our ill moments. Deserve means I earned it. You feel what I'm saying? But we never lose our worth. And that's how we have to operate. You have to have the mentality in a perfecting your relationship type of thing. You have to have the mentality of worth, not deserve. All right? That's extreme. And again, it's not saying take anything that people do. Because again, love will correct. If you're not loving me right, then love should say, I'm feeling underappreciated. I don't mean to sound like I'm throwing a fit. But because I know that I'm human, and when I am feeling, you are ultimately your responsibility. All right, so don't throw that off on somebody else. However, if we are a team, shouldn't we be playing on the same side? So if I recognize at the end of the day, I gotta take the shot, but I need you to pass me the ball. I need you to set me up, if that makes sense. All right, or I need you to block the this, is, that, and the other. I've had some issues before in the past where I felt like, you're feeling underappreciated. And guess what happens when you're feeling underappreciated? Everybody in your inbox trying to give you some. And you sitting and wondering, well, why my partner don't even barely look at me? But this one, even though I know it ain't real, even though I know they don't really want me at the end of the day, or what they want ain't really me. My daughter said, she did a YouTube, she said, you don't know me. You don't know me, you just know me. You don't know me. She did this YouTube video. I said, I'm so proud of her. I hate when people say, oh, you're beautiful and I want to get to, I want to be with you. She said, you don't know me. I was like, she was a trip. But it's like, so these people are in your inbox and you know it's not real in terms of them actually wanting a committed relationship with you. But because you feel underappreciated here, all of that perfection of evil is infiltrating you. And if you can't get away to meditate or get away to actually center yourself and be like, nope, this is not what I'm going to give into, then you're likely going to fall in line with that evil space. All right. So as a relational partner with you, be it friendship, family, whatever, it is my responsibility not to manage your life, but it is my responsibility to give you what you need to thrive as it relates to what you need from me. Are you following it? Are y'all following that? Now I can give you this great goodness and you can take it and stomp it and throw it all over the place. Now at that point, that's what you did with it. But my role, what should we really be doing when we see our brother fall? Will did something on this the other week. Is it criticize him, throw him in jail, punish him, this is that, the other? Or is it restore? Ye who are spiritual. To restore, what does that restoration look like? I don't know, it might be a belt, but I'm just saying at the end of the day, our whole job should be to restore. So coming in from that space, look at what it is that you're putting into your relationships. And I'm talking about look at it at an energetic level. All right, are you vibing the 639 hertz? Or are you just trying to get what you need or what you want? We can have perfect relationships. They're already perfect. You don't have to do anything to make them perfect. The system works. The creator already set that in place. You feel me? It's almost kind of like laws of physics. That's already set in place. You don't have to do anything. If I give you, I used an example yesterday, if I give you this cup, and I ain't got no cup, so act like I got a cup in my hand. If I got this pen, I give you this pen, the creator has nothing to do with whether I drop it or hold it or not. Do you feel what I'm saying? What he had to do with was, if I do open my hand, it's gonna fall. This is what's happening in our relationships. He set the system up perfectly. What you do with that system is what's going to determine whether we are manifesting healthy, happy relationships or not. Or whether we're just creating hell for one another because we're trying to get somebody to scratch our back. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? It's one of those, it's a very simple thing. However, for whatever reason, our divorce rates, or now it's not even getting married rates, or just relational pain rates, is increasing. It seems to be increasing at least. Very high. Why can't we get along? What is it that we're doing or not as to why we can't get along? What's really happening? We gotta have self-introspection and actually say, is the role that I'm trying to play, is it helping or hurting? The expectations that I have, are they really, truly healthy, helpful, or whatever? And then as far as what was the last thing I said? Patterns? The patterns. Am I recognizing the patterns and actually seeing which ones are actually beneficial to giving? Not just beneficial to me, but beneficial for helping us thrive, or lacking in that sense. Somebody told me earlier this week, and the questions, we got a few questions up there. You got the questions up there? Oh, okay, gotcha. Will is so good. All right. Somebody told me this week, you just seem like you just created a whole religion. And I said to him, he unfriended me, but I said to him, if that's what you need to do for me no longer to be welcome at your table, then okay, I created a religion. But my religion allows me to love you. My religion allows me to sit here and talk to you with and disagree and still not disrespect you or belittle you or even say I'm doing both of us a favor and I'm just gonna go ahead and cut you off, because that's what he basically said to me. My religion still allows me to live in light. It still allows me to love on people and to give them what they need to thrive to the best of my ability. I'm not saying I do it all perfectly. All right, so that's what we're doing, and that's what we're doing. I have made a commitment. I've made a commitment to the people in my life. My friends all know this. And I've even said this to Sean. I'm here to support you in being your highest self. At the end of the day, that's why I'm here. If we get to a point where that's not happening, and I'm constantly making you be your lower self, and we can't catch it and figure out what's actually happening, then let me know, because I am no longer serving in the capacity. Not just let me know because I'm not making you happy, but let me know because I've made a commitment to love and to be who I am. That means I'm failing at who I am. Are y'all following me? So let me know if I'm not. And if your choice is you're not and I want you to go, then that's what I'll do. But if you say you're not, but I want you to stay because I want you to come on higher, we have to team up in this. That's what a partnership is. It's to say, look, I'm struggling today in my flesh. I need you to help me. But we won't be vulnerable enough to say, I need you to help me. I'm struggling. For some reason, so she was talking last week, for some reason, my energy is down here. Now, I know I got to do the work, but can you at least support me while I do the work? That's a partnership. It's giving each other what we need to thrive. And we got to constantly do our personal work. Constantly see our partners too. And when I say partners, I mean friendships and family or whatever. We got to constantly see them and see where they need us to come and kind of fill in. Oh, I see you got a little crack over here. Do you notice it? Okay, let's see what we can do to get it. Because there's some things that people do. LeAnzar Johnson just made a comment and said she did not realize how much she was drinking. Now we may say, how you don't realize how much you're drinking? But when you're in whatever your thing is, sometimes you don't see it. And it takes somebody to walk alongside you and say, hey, check this out. You know, they may not hear you right then, but they'll hear you later. Me and my brother have made that pact with each other. If we're ever out of love, let me know. All right, last thing is this, what I need for you all to do on your own. We'll do it one time, maybe later in the year or something like that when we start doing some relationship conference or something like that, and maybe even get Angie to help us with this. But a relationship vision. All right. So here's how after we've done all our self-reflection of roles, expectations, and patterns, you need to have a relationship vision. And I would suggest that everybody do a general one for life, right? And then do one for your specific relationships, family, significant other, and this is that and the other, where you're putting a vision in your relationship, and there's 4 elements to that. Write these down in your head. All right, it's 4 P's. All right, 1 is present tense, stay in the present tense. All right, not just like we're gonna have whatever. It's like that, call those things that be not as though they were. I live in a loving relationship. We live in a loving relationship. All right, so the second thing is present tense. Second thing is personal, where it's personal, just like how I said. Either I statements or we, if it's me and you, we have a relationship that is such and such, such and such. So you're talking as, even if it's not there yet, you're talking as if it's already there. And then using positive language, and then y'all know all that piece or whatever. And then the last thing is be passionate about it. If you don't want a relationship, don't get in one. There's a lot of people talking about relationships, specifically significant other relationships, and you don't really want one. Stop. You don't have to be with anybody. It's not a rule that you have to have a significant other, people. You don't have to, of that sense. I do believe we all need a partner, which could be your best friend. All right? I believe we all need somebody. It could be your mama. We were created for a relationship, but you don't got to have a boo. You can take care of yourself in the areas that a lot of people get married for anyway. All right? Make sense?
All right.